Hey guys, welcome to another limited resources video with me. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and we are, well, you can see we're doing something a little different this time. We are going to be doing a sealed event. We get a reasonable amount of emails for the podcast about people wanting us to talk about sealed, and we do on the show, but it's kind of tough to talk about without a visual because sealed pools are very complex and they're very large. There's just a lot of cards to cover. It's a lot tougher to talk about than like a crack-a-pack, so I figured why not? We'll do a sealed pool. This is a daily event, so it's going to be a 4-rounder, potentially. And let's see what we got. So first thing I like to do is pile by rarity, because that's going to give us an idea of where our power cards lie. And we do have some. We've got Rakdos. He's pretty good. Oldvarret Hellkite is not very good. Chromatic Lantern, also not very good, but reasonable. And then a Martial Law and even a Desecration Demon. All right, so two really good black cards. Guild Feud sucks. Let's take a look by color now. And what I like to do is just go down the line of each of the colors and then figure out kind of where we're at. Now, in Return to Ravnica, it often makes more sense to start over here, because these guild cards are a lot of what's going to guide your decisions. But I like to just keep it consistent and start with here and kind of know what I'm hoping for when I go into this last pack. Also, one thing we need to keep an eye on is mana fixing. We've got a Key Rune, a Guild Gate, and the Chromatic Lantern. Okay, so let's take a look here. So Judgment, Knightly Valor, Martial Law, Eyes in the Skies, Armory Guard, Sunspire, Griffin, 2 Celestia Sentry, Root Board Defenses. Oh my god, 2 Arrests. I've never even seen that. And Keening Apparition. Actually, every single one of our white cards is playable. So this is something we're going to keep an eye on for sure, because that's ridiculous. Blue, Void Wielder, Double Runewing, Inspiration, Cancel, Stealer, Hover, Barrier, Fairy, Imposter, Downsize, Dispel, and wow, almost all of these are playable as well. So it looks like our white blue is pretty strong to start with. A lot of times it's not that strong. Let's see what our other colors have. Perilous Shadow, so there's a Desecration Demon, a Jailbreaker, a Launch Party, a Stabboon, a Mind Rot, a Reveler, Roustabout, Thrill Kill, Shrieking, Deviant Glee, Cream. Now we can see that this is much weaker than our other colors. Let's bring to the front the cards that we actually would consider playing in a deck. And a Thrill Kill, Deviant Glee. So these ones are just sort of out of contention for the most part, and we would consider playing these, although none of them are particularly exciting besides Desecration Demon. So our black looks actually quite weak here, so we're going to keep that in mind as we move forward here. In red, we've got the Hellkite. I don't like him. Tenement Crasher, meh. Guild Feud, meh. So these are all just sort of whatevers. Tenement Crasher's not technically unplayable, but it's pretty bad. That's a good one. Goblin Rally I like. Double Pyro Convergence. I'm going to set him aside for now, but we'll keep him in mind just in case. Annihilating Fire, a couple of Racketeers, a Racecourse Fury, and 2 Bellows Lizards. So this is, again, I was mentioning before how, a lot of times you get a pile of cards and they're just awful, and this is one of them. We would like to play Annihilating Fire and Explosive Impact. Rally's fine or whatever, but basically our only red cards that we really care about are these two. That's really it. So we're probably not going to be playing red unless we want to splash for this impact. All right, green, Horncaller's Chant, Rubbleback Rhino, Monitor, Indrik, Axebane Guardian, Predation, Gatecreeper Vine, Savage Search, and Double Urban Burgeoning. So obviously just horrific again. If that's not obvious to you, it's mainly because Horncaller's Chants are they go in maybe one deck, and that deck needs multiples of these, and this card isn't even that good. So these and the rest of our creatures are just very mediocre. Rubbleback Rhino, Karazda Monitor, just totally unexciting. Tyrant Indrik, sure, he goes in the deck, but like it's not a reason to play a deck. Gatecreeper Vine has some utility, but overall, meh. So it looks to me like these two colors are out. These two colors are the best, and then black has a reasonable amount of playable. So let's take a look at our multicolored cards, because this is going to dictate where our pool goes in a pretty big way. Okay, so Courser's Accord, Centaur Healer, Vidu Ghazi, Guild Mage. So those are interesting. Centaur Healer and Guild Mage are both super solid, Guild Mage being really, really good. Courser's Accord is pretty mediocre, but it can be good in the right deck. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Now let's move Courser's Accord over here, just because it's not that exciting. But these two cards are cards that we'd like to splash for, especially the Guild Mage. All right, let's look at our blue-white, because we did notice that our blue-white was pretty good over here overall, although we don't really know what the deck looks like exactly. But we've got Fall of the Gavel, which is like Skymark Rock. That's awesome. So let's put that like here just so we know. Double Search Warrant, really bad, and an Azorius Charm, which is fine. Now we have double Frostburn, weird. So those go here as if they were double blue. That's pretty good. Essence Backlash, Chemister's Trick, Rakdos Shred Freak. No, none of those are good. We saw Rakdos before. So here's an Augur Spree, a card that we like, but isn't very good. If you tell me about it. And let's look at our green-black, although really we've seen that our green is very mediocre and our black is pretty mediocre too, so it takes something really special here, and there just isn't anything. Best card is this Karaz the Guildmage. There's also a Trestle Troll, Scorpion, a Rites of Reaping, Salvage. All these cards are bad. So taking a look at it, like these are basically out, and this is what we're left with. We don't think we're going to be playing green, so let's just move, or at least we're not going to be main decking green, not splashing green, so, and these cards just aren't really worth the splashes. So let's take a look at what we have here. It is looking pretty strongly like we're going to be in blue-white, and maybe we're going to splash green. I'd like to splash black, but Desecration Demon's the main reason, and he's not really splashable, so that's kind of a bummer. The only other card that we really want out of this thing is this Stab Wound. So let's move these away, even though there's some good cards in here. Thrillkill Assassin's good, Dead Reveler's good, but these are the only cards that we really care about. These can all go in the no pile. And then over here we've got a Rakdos Key Rune, a Golgari Gilgate, and the Lantern. So let's move these down and see what we're looking at. This is 26 playables as it currently sits, and let's just break it down to see what it looks like. It looks like Downsize is in here, and that's not a great card. Can be good, but it's not a great card, so we'll move that to the side for now. And we've got a Cancel and Double Arrest. How did we get that lucky? Couple of Sentries, Eyes in the Skies, there's an Inspiration, a Martial Law. Hey, gotta love that. That's my card. Double Runewing, a Knightly Valor, which kind of goes somewhere here, and then a Tristani's Judgment. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at this deck, it's very mediocre, like super boring. Doesn't really do that much, and it's not really that powerful either. Unfortunately, this, I believe, is the deck that we're going to be running. So what we need to do is kind of take a look at what we want. Like, do we want a Vitu-Ghazi Guildmage on the splash? If we did, we could run like the Chromatic Lantern and kind of go nuts. We could also just be stupid and just run the Chromatic Lantern and just go nuts with whatever we wanted over here. But unfortunately, there's not really that much for us over there. So that doesn't really get us anywhere. Unfortunately, the Rakdos Key Rune doesn't help out on our splashes at all, so we're not going to be able to run that. Same thing with the Golgari Guildgate, and it looks like we're not going to have room for anything like that. So that leaves us with like a Vitu-Ghazi Guildmage, maybe a Centaur Healer, and a Chromatic Lantern. You know, the deck looks okay like this. It looks a lot better like this. It looks a little better like this. I mean, there's just some junkers in here. You know, we've got Stealer of Secrets and no really great way to get it through for damage. We've got two Selesnya Sentries, which are just very boring. Like, if those were all Sunspire Griffins, we'd be much happier. We've got a Hover Barrier in a deck that kind of looks like it might want to block sometimes. I don't really know. We've got a Void Wielder and a Fairy Imposter, so that's a nice little combo. Eyes in the Skies is a solid card. Rune Wings, very unexciting. Armory Guard, unexciting. Skymark Rock is sweet, though. We've got a little bit of card draw and a little bit of permission here. Azorius Charm can be used well, and Rootborn Defenses too, although I don't think that this deck really abuses it. Like, we get like a random token or a 2/2 out of it if we're lucky, but it does, in fact, put some pretty sweet combat situations at your disposal, so that's nice. All right, so if we were going to make this the deck, how much worse is it if we cut these? That's a lot worse. I mean, what is this deck really trying to do? I don't even know. It's just trying to like play the best cards in our pool and not lose, I suppose. It's not that it can't win. You know, Knightly Valor's a win condition for sure, and it does have a mix of creatures and removal, which is nice. But it just doesn't, I don't really see this deck being very great. So I think we need to kind of push a little harder into some splashes here to try to make this happen. And we got to figure out what we want to cut as a result of that. I think we can cut Cancel probably. We probably want this thing. Yeah, we probably want it. I mean, Doesn't really do a lot in our deck, but it helps with this. Like if we don't do that, we're just cold splashing basically either 2 or 3 forests, which is pretty brutal. What else can we have for mana sinks? This. Ugh. Yeah, this deck is pretty bad. Again, the cards are good. It's not that it doesn't have good cards, but it doesn't really come together and do anything. So that's a big issue that we're going to have to deal with here. I think I'm going to cut the hover barrier. I'd much rather just have something that can at least attack sometimes. We certainly have ways we can win. We have a couple of flyers, Skymark Rock, and then like some big guys on the ground. And that can definitely get you there. I wonder if I need this Fairy Imposter. We're not really abusing it. Like buying back a Void Wielder is pretty sweet, but I think we can just bring it in if we want to have, like if somebody starts arresting our guys or something like that. What else do we want to do here? Yeah, I feel like the Centaur Healer and the Voodoo Gazi Guildmage give the deck a pretty reasonable power bump. Why don't we take out Rootborn Defenses for now? We're not really abusing it anyway. And we have one more cut that we should make here. Unfortunately, there really isn't anything easy. It's like the Azorius Charm or the Dispel. I like Dispel quite a bit, but I guess we can bring it in out of the board. This looks like a deck. Not a particularly good one, but it is a deck. All right, so let's add some lands. We got basically no fixing for our deck. It's not enough. So we want... All right, so this gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... 8 blue sources and 9 white, which makes sense. We've got this and a little bit earlier on white. We do need double blue here, but I mean, what are we going to do? All right, so let's run this thing and see what it can do. We've got a reasonable sideboard plan too. I think that we'll likely see Cancel and or Dispel come in, Hover Barrier and Rootborn Defenses against certain decks as well. So let's see what it can do.